Yeah.
All right, is it working?
Let me check. Yeah, I think we are live now.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We wait for 2 minutes. Let me share some links.
all right. Is the audio coming through? Let me check. Coming through. Yep, it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I think we should just include the Twitch link in the original posts in the future, just so that they're all connected.
I think we have shared the link. People started joining now. Hey POV, thanks for joining. So I think we should start now. Shall we?
I'm ready whenever, but we can wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Do
We
these
can wait.
things get recorded as well?
I think yes, it's recorded.
All right.
I think we can. I think we are good to go now.
Cool. Hey everyone.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining.
Is the stream getting you as well?
Yeah, I think we have some people join.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll chat first about what this is. I'm in the space pod, which that airdrop to CloneX that was done last year, and uh, I basically was very interested in showcasing Introp when that happened because it was like a wide audience, 8,500 something wallets receiving this. And if the avatars were designed to be interoperable, then shouldn't the home spaces as well? So I started to, basically uh, bring the space pod with me to all sorts of different platforms and showcase it, and then design like a shell around it so it can be brought into other places. And then I linked all these demos up together into this 3D website so you can kind of explore, this is how it looks in Webaverse, and this is got a link over here that'll take you to the voxels version. Link over here that'll take you to the Janus version, the Hyperfly version, etc. So here's like the voxels version. I can zoom in a little bit. This one is in the music district. And bam. And it's kind of like also to help illustrate, this idea of Introp, in which I think each platform is doing something really great, and that bringing your assets in between them, you can unlock the strengths of that platform. So instead of voxels or any of these platforms feeling like they have to compete on every front, through interoperability, they could lean into their strengths and what they're good at, and then basically just focus on that niche instead of everything all at once. And that delivers more value faster to the users of all these platforms, and I think a greater meaning of digital ownership. If the things that you buy in one place can't work anywhere else, then do you truly own it? Like, kind of reminds me of the vendor lock-in that you would see in places like Apple or something, where it's if it only works in their ecosystem, then you're kind of locked to Apple's. And so I've got some examples here, and I also wanted to co-locate a lot of information that is related to each other. So it's a little bit of a digital gardening tool. So with all the documentation that I write, who reads anymore? It's like hard to parse all of this by yourself anyways. And I've got a bunch of devlogs in here related to the open metaverse and avatar interoperability and NFT avatars and virtual productions, etc., that they needed to be broken up into chapters. And so that's kind of what you see over here. This is just kind of like about home spaces, for instance, and the ability to self-host a home space, I think, is going to be essential to the open metaverse. If you can't self-host it, if it's always on somebody else's server, then you don't really own it. And so the ability to have a local first kind of like private instance of the virtual world that you totally own. It's on your hardware. It's kind of like the closer to the metal you are, it's like owning the land, in a figurative speech sort of way. And working on different chapters in books of such. So that's this space. And I think the spatialization of different shortcuts is also quite interesting from a utility point of view. Like each of these has something to do with one another. For example, like that Raspberry Pi over there has something to do with that shell. Got more spaces like it as well, and you can just kind of recursively go down into virtual worlds within virtual worlds within virtual worlds.
Yeah, very cool, man. So Jin, what are the fundamental issues you find in these current open source softwares, and how the Webaverse can fix them, and how we can going to fix them?
So one of the things, and this kind of brings us to Webaverse MMO, is a lot of open source projects right now. There's like a broken value loop system, and how you can like make it more sustainable, and also documentation and templates. So for the case of Webaverse, for example, if we want to onboard more people to help kind of build the open metaverse, I think there's some lighter tasks that we could essentially give more ownership to the community and incentivize like a more of a maker community through kind of like quests revolved around completing things that are like open source tasks and issues, not just like finding stuff in a video game and retrieving something that's all fantasy, but what if we can gamify the actual open source process and development itself? So in here I kind of describe, README files for any open source project, is the first thing that people would look at. So and documentation is key for onboarding and scaling any project as well. And it's also useful for Metaverse Interop working groups. So, the Metaverse Standards Forum, the Open Metaverse Interoperability Group, we need at least 3 platforms or projects to prototype a new standard or plugin or a GLTF extension with. And we need documentation about how each project is doing things so that we could, design and test and integrate these standards. So I've designed this system, and this is kind of how it's broken down. First, you install the Webaverse app locally. This takes you to the GitHub page to do that, and it's just like any kind of Node.js project. Clone the repo and then npm install, and then join the dwork space. And dwork is an awesome tool that I've fallen in love with this year. One of my favorite DAO tools for sure, and I think going to be a real game changer for open source, because it's more user friendly of an interface than GitHub. And it composes real nicely into such workflows. All right, you can one-to-one sync with GitHub or Trello or Notion. Just boom, import all your stuff from there into a space. Kind of reminds me of Discord as well. So it's really composable in that sense. But you could future roles in here, and I've got kind of this in the M3D work where, in order to gain the M3 role, it tells you like what the quest is that you have to complete in order to do that. I've already got it, so I can't show that right away. But and what's kind of interesting is you can also award any ERC20, 721, or 1155 token for completing a thing, and that could be all done with GitHub and stuff. So in here we have various categories, so like weapons, pets, vehicles, and mounts, and these tasks are linked to GitHub issues. So create a README and how-to guide. So this is for creating pets. And there's some documentation over here, but we need it over here. So the goal for this task is add a README that describes what this package is, how you can use it, like a preview image and all of that, which is pretty easy to do. There's some existing stuff, and then submit your work and then earn tokens that way. So I broke down the steps in more detail here. Installing Webaverse, joining the dwork, picking something on a bounty board, cloning and testing, writing a README, and then submitting your work. And there's many ways of doing that. You don't have to just use GitHub. You can use dwork, drag and drop stuff into here, discuss on Discord. This has excellent integration with Discord as well. Any kind of thing that you apply to, it'll spin up a thread right there for you. Tag the people that are assigned to it as well, and I would be the one reviewing it, but and then once you complete it, that's how you get paid out, so tokens. And then I'll be adding like a leaderboard, so people who have kind of racked up the most tokens for a month are going to get an airdrop of some kind. And I want to design achievement NFTs that you earn that are really cool. So like an NFT that you kind of flex, that is something about not just what you bought, but what you've done. And I want to design them kind of also based around the different skills that you could tag things with. So you can kind of see, you know, development, design, translation, writing, marketing, community, there's 12 or like a dozen or so skills, and each one has having an emoji. I've been looking at this and thinking about what the semiotics of like NFT merch or like trophies would be for each of these. Like the marketing thing has a megaphone, so like maybe, you know, for racking up 1,000 XP and that are marketing related tasks, you get a megaphone wearable for your avatar. And also this design, I was thinking about like dwork and GitHub being a backend for in-world NPCs that you talk to in order to receive these quests. So instead of finding bounties here through this 2D interface, maybe you go into a virtual world and talk to an NPC that looks like, you know, they're an artist or looks like they're a developer, and then that's where you get the quests are related to that skill branch. So turning it into like an MMO, but the game is designing and helping contribute to open source projects, not just playing in a fantasy world. Yeah, so that's the gist of Webaverse MMO. And I've got, you know, some other examples of some ideas and whatnot. Here's like where you can see you can add bounties to different tokens, and those bounties can also be your own ERC 2721 or 1155, which is pretty epic because you can imagine that earning certain tokens for completing certain challenges could unlock other quests and whatnot. So one key can unlock the next kind of like task. I would love to collab with somebody who is down to think of various tasks that could be assigned to you know, community roles. And you know, there's a lot of stuff up on GitHub already because it's an open source project, so plenty that could be pulled from the Webaverse repo. But there's a lot of soft skills that one can contribute to the project as well, you know, like writing threads, blog posts, documentation, templates, art, design.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for that. So, Jen, recently there has been tweet from the Vitalik man that he's concerned about the VR stuff and just like some anti-crypto things. So what is your take on that, man? Like he's like he is not in favor of VR or stuffs which we are going to build.
What? Who? What?
Uh, Recently, there was a tweet from Vitalik that he has concern with the VR stuffs to some anti-crypto people. Like there's a tweet from Vitalik recently which created a buzz about the anti-VR things.
Oh, you're talking about Vitalik's latest tweet. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was mentioning VR for the sake of VR doesn't work, but there are some real practical, um, use cases and
Yeah, I linked
applications
in
of
the
it.
chat.
So, I think it's a very fair take, and I think that one of the things that VR is really good at, and a reason why you would want to go into VR all the time, is I think the future of work and could align much closer to Hollywood than like a boardroom sort of office. And this is where virtual production comes in. So if you're able to with VR, for example, and these headsets now like incorporating various algorithms, AI and some not AI, to do full body tracking, and you can even do such with a webcam. But I think this technology really lends itself to being on the same virtual studio set with others, that you're collaborating with to make film content and movies and music videos and shows and educational content or training and tutorials, simulations, etc. Virtual Hollywood, I think, is going to be a real driver of the virtual economy that brings together avatar tailors to work on, the um, wardrobe and world builders for the sets and camera people, digital producers. All these roles have audio people as well, Foley and whatnot, and um, being in VR, you get motion capture with a device that's very affordable. You can real time collaborate and previs with other members on the set live. And one of the things we've been testing lately is how we could essentially shoot something in one platform and then capture all the data that we need in order to render that anywhere else. So if we were to meet up in VR chat, for instance, the one pipeline I'm testing is if we shoot like some content in VR chat, I want to be able to capture our body movements and everything and the audio so that we can render it in other game engines, Unity, Unreal, Web, you name it. It's just files that you can bring into your project with.
Very cool stuff, sir. So, sir, how these let's talk about the AI stuff in the especially in the Webaverse, what we are building, leak some alpha for our community team, like what we are building with these AI things in Webaverse. If you'd like to share something about that.
I've seen a lot of screenshots and whatnot. It's kind of difficult for me to gather them all together right now, but through lurking on the GitHub, I've seen AI stuff related to text to 3D,
Mm-hmm.
to voxels, to text to procedural generation of worlds, characters, mobs. Basically, you can kind of talk to a computer that can generate a world with you. And it kind of reminds me of that blog post that I wrote a while ago, Story Weaving with AI. So you can imagine whether you're hanging out in VR around a fire or in Discord with a bot, you could tell it stories, and then the computer, the AIs are going to weave that into worlds for you that you could then go in and create a game out of or shoot a movie or film. The same assets are useful for both film making and game dev.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have shared this link with the community member in the chats. If they want, they can read about it. So, sir, there has been a lot of buzz about things like that. The the Norway has been stepped into the metaverse stuff. They are building some uh, DeFi NFTs and some text softwares in metaverse. And so, I just want to ask, man, like Zuck is pushing so much amount of money in crypto, like through Meta, and the Elon Musk is buying these mm, Twitter stuffs, and the Reddit NFTs. Every big firm is getting involved into this crypto and metaverse thing. So, as per you, how internet is going to change in the next 5 years? How, what are the changes we can see in the future? Like,
Yeah, it's going to be a very,
company,
um, you know, I think a lot of stuff is going to accelerate, like true open source AI. It's only been like 2 months since Stability AI open source Stable Diffusion, right? And we've seen so much advancement since then. And to extrapolate that out 3 to 5 years, especially with the way that real time game engines are going and with headsets, by then I think we're definitely going to hit a sweet spot in terms of a headset we could just slip on and you're somewhere else. Um, yeah, the medium is going to definitely change, and the medium is the message in a way, and that's when I think we're going to see a lot more productivity. I think when it comes to remote work and decentralized networks, and I align a lot with Balaji's like network state thesis, and
yes.
that's what I have a lot of 3D scans of places and whatnot, so that we can begin to prototype that concept. And I think the power of real-time collaborative editing is also going to be really useful for communities to kind of architect various things in virtual reality and eventually manifest in the real world. And that's why I want to kind of create a line between these two things. And I've got research on, like, for example, bring in 3D scans into different virtual environments from locations and across major cities, and with new headsets doing more and more mixed reality. I mean, photogrammetry, you could basically do mixed reality remotely with your team. Not everybody might be able to make it to this ballroom physically in order to do demos, but if you have the 3D scan, I mean, to a computer, it's all ones and zeros anyways. It's not like it
Yeah, yeah.
differentiates.
Yeah. It's pretty cool, sir. It's pretty cool. Uh, so sir, let's talk about something about the Meta Factory and the M3 org which you have started. Like, what is the purpose of this, and what is your aim with the starting these projects?
So M3, and I can kind of bring us to the HQ here. It's a virtual hackerspace, and a virtual hackerspace, I think, is a really conducive environment for actual interop kind of work to kind of take place between projects, because M3 is a roof under which a lot of projects kind of come together and collaborate on different things. And so it's kind of like a third place for developers, outside of work, outside of home. It's a place in which, why am I spawned underneath the map, where people from different projects can teach, learn, and build. And MetaFactory does a lot of digi-physical merch type stuff, right? So it's like a DAO that it's a service DAO that essentially we're creating not only like physical products as a DAO. That's in itself a really useful activity, not because we're creating products, but because we're prototyping how we work together. It's not just about what we work on, but how we're working. And I think that's really important in itself. So, like, something that's kind of lightweight, like designing merch, actually is a really great background activity for us to learn about um, how to, what tools that we can use for coordination. And it's kind of a network state in formation based around manufacturing microfactories around the world. So there's like a couple offices or factories that we have, one in New York and another in Berlin, and another one that's going to be starting up soon or already is. And I've been in charge of basically the wearables. So we're designing wearables that not just work on one avatar, but many avatars. I've got some visualizations around here, like that's our kind of our 3D storefront over there. Some like visualizations of different avatars. Basically want to make it so that if you got a clone, if you got an ape, if you got a yeti, if you got a humanoid or a tiny avatar, whatever it is, that we can make things compatible with one another. And yeah, this is kind of a visual of what I imagine our virtual HQ combining multiple different. So it's kind of like a mini co-working space. This is one of our embassies, and we're building embassies in different worlds so that we could kind of like go between them and share our vision, kind of as missionaries of the metaverse. And there's a lot of virtual production stuff that we do as well. So we're actually going to be doing a show reel in a few weeks, second week of November, in which we'll show kind of like a preview of M3 TV. So it's kind of a network / channel of metaverse content made by and for digital natives, shot mostly from within VR. And here's like a look at MetaFactory Jacket and a digital version of it. And I've been working on basically making it so that that jacket can work on any platform and any avatar. I've got to work on some new stuff actually around that. So I've got way better models to work with nowadays. But yeah, you can kind of see here this. I host a weekly avatar interop meetup on Mondays that anybody can join. It's on the M3 GitHub /avatar interop, and we do a lot of field testing. So we're doing a lot of on the ground testing, experimenting, and the case studies that we can bring to these other metaverse interop standards groups to research. And because their meetings are kind of like meetings about specs and other stuff, and got to bring something to the table. Endless meetings doesn't build the metaverse. You still there? Well, speaking of which, there's a epic event that's happening tomorrow as part of Rain Dance Immersive. So if anyone is going to be in VR chat, hit me up. I'll be in there. MetaRick's got like a really cool virtual production that's basically kind of like telling a story of metaverse makers, but from a fictional storyverse perspective, kind kind of using his own characters, kind of like Tim Burton. It's almost like telling a story about based on real events, shot within the metaverse, kind of like an interactive comic book. So there's like Boombox Head, who's an M3 member, caricaturized in that style. Is anyone? I'm reading the Twitch chat, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop in and hit me up. Got a bunch of the art here as well, and one of the things I want to do is essentially kind of create a war room with all of the things related to building the internet cinematic universe. So I've been really interested in going back to this article a lot. It talks about how creatives work and the two-step process for developing ideas, and it's basically gathering things like collecting raw material and then thinking about it and looking at it from all sorts of different angles. So, Da Vinci's notebook and then a designer's mood board, etc., and then finding ways to then think about it. So people would use post-it notes and create these war rooms in which they would have all their ideas onto spreading them around on a wall, and then rearranging and whatnot, and bringing everybody to the table. It taps into human spatial memory, which is way better than how we're kind of using computers trying to remember where URLs and links are, and we weren't evolved to think like that. This is what Pixar's Office looks like. And if this is what an award-winning animation studio or storytelling studio looks like, we need something like this that is remote friendly, that is digital, and that is scalable. And so I've been designing spaces that is a lot of that by way of kind of connecting things people are already doing, such as using software to mood board. So here's, for example, one of my devlogs. I'll take a bunch of images and then be able to bring them onto the walls here. And then you could then use this as a meeting place with your collaborators in order to discuss, the project and kind of also see it evolve. And new people also joining in for the first time would have more context through that environmental sort of external stimuli, and kind of get a sense of where the project is at just by being in the room. So I've been thinking about that, and this article, it's kind of interesting. They talk about how it's possible to activate this region in a digital/virtual environment with and I think the software they were using, they didn't quite hit the target, but I feel like I'm getting real close to something that's really usable. I'm only really interested in the upper part of this part because it's talking about the war room concept, and so I've been setting that up between DAOs and between projects, and to get multiple organizations onto the same page so that we can align and build a metaverse together, because it's not just one company, not just one project, it's many of us. And
Yeah. It's
it's
pretty
many of
cool,
us.
sir.
Yep.
Looks decent. So, sir, I want to ask, like you have seen currently, we have been going through lots of, regulation stuff, SEC, and all these DeFi regulation stuff. So, where the metaverse and the Webaverse stands in between, like how are we going to scale in between these hard regulation stuffs? Like like basically we are considered as part of crypto, right? So where we stand in this between?
I think when it comes to scaling, like, uh, it's hard to, um, yeah, it's crypto is very international, right? So no matter what, it's a remote first kind of movement, combined with people in the physical world and anons and people who are just connecting everywhere, working together, and it's all really built on open source. I mean, look at Bitcoin for example; it's an open source project slash protocol, and um, you know, before Bitcoin, the cypherpunks, for example, the whole movement was founded on open sourcing. Previously, like, cryptography that was considered munitions exports, and it was illegal, for consumers to use. It was a military kind of thing. So this whole field has deep roots in open source, um, and I'm thinking we need to find ways to. I think the main challenge is coordination. Slaying Moloch. So I'm always thinking about how we can coordinate better, and war rooms is one of such concepts. So designing a space that instead of a video call in which you're on a blank slate every time that you hop onto a Zoom or a Google Meet, you basically have zero context as to what the previous meeting was about. And every meeting looks like the same meeting. Like, no matter what meeting that you're hopping on with whoever you're talking to, it's the same room, it's the same interface. So I think there's a lot of potential and power in designing these thinking spaces and using virtual worlds, not just as like a thinking space, but also as like a way to coordinate people. And I think media is a very powerful way of doing that, creating Schelling points, and it compresses ideas into a packageable form. In which, I mean, on the in the net, you're competing with memes and whatnot. So you need to create powerful content that can compete with the latest dank memes.
Yeah,
Hey Jen, methodic here. So, hey, sorry I couldn't join on time. I had a sick kid, but
All
better late
good.
than never. Um, yeah. So I saw you talk about sort of the show sort of the DAO mood boards and the process and stuff there. I've also seen you share on Twitter several tools that you really like. Um, can you share a little bit more about the tools that DAOs can leverage, um, in their day to day and to get things done?
Oh, for sure. I mean, right now, D-Work for sure would be my HackMD, D-Work, and then Coordinate. I mean, where do you want to start? Like, the first step to like creating a DAO, I would say, is like creating a safe, right? So you have a safe, a multi-sig. I could bring that up, but once you have like a multi-sig, uh, and like a Discord and all that, then I would create a DWork and then connect that to GitHub. So like in DWork, you could import GitHub issues and whatnot, but for here we basically add things, and as you complete tasks, you're building out a profile and earning kind of reputation as well, because and you can sign in with GitHub, Discord, or your wallet, so it's very flexible in that way. And you could see all your contributions in your profile page. And this is all like um, very portable and builds up that kind of reputation. And then you can earn more ownership in networks through that kind of proof of work. I think that's a really um, interesting way of like um, producing legitimacy through proof of work.
Mm. How much adoption do these tools have at the moment with DAOs? Like, do most DAOs that you know of use these, or do you think there's like a long way to go for
I think
them
DAOs
to
in
actually use?
general, like It's how many DAOs actually have like a concrete product? You know, there's different kinds of DAOs, right?
Mhm.
There's like investment DAOs, and there's like DAOs that are working on all sorts of things, governing protocols, or you know, in the case of like MetaFactory, producing products. I'm really interested in. I think the best place to kind of learn is maybe like a DAO that kind of produces something that is like um, really just like, for example, with merch, you know, it's pretty straightforward, but then it allows you a lot of space to kind of learn about DAO tools and whatnot as well, right? And media is also kind of interesting. So Bankless DAO has like a whole media thing. And I think the stuff that we're doing at virtual production could be composable with them in the future. But as DAO proposals and debates get really long, like if you've ever seen the walls of text on like a Uniswap governance proposal or something, I eventually see like the need for like media groups to be able to distill those discussions down into talking points. And you know, it's going to be like uh, protocol politics in a way, like for
Mm.
governance.
So
No, that's
Jin,
really good.
like you have posted about the ZST market, if you remember, like how we can monetize the, the stuff which we own in the Webaverse in the future, or maybe some property or some digital rights. Can you please talk about something like that?
Uh, Zesty is quite interesting because it's not just about like advertising. I think it's really about time slots, and tokenizing a time slot could be useful for so many different things. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
education, for example, it's kind of like you could have that for mentorships or tutorships. Or I've been working on a conference proof of concept where, or a co-working space rather, in which you could uh, rent a Zesty ad in order to essentially have a virtual office next to a whole bunch of others. Um,
That sounds interesting.
yeah, so Zesty Market, for those that don't know, it's a tokenized um, time slots in which you could go down to the minutes and days, and you could rent like a week or a billboard, something and whatnot, and your content automatically uploads to whatever that you're renting. So I also think it could be useful for a conference. So essentially, the sponsor of a conference automatically uh, will have their logos and banners posted everywhere within that place, from the environment to maybe the logos on the website to maybe the avatar wearable badges, things like that. In multiple
So,
different verses too, because Zesty is in like all sorts of places. Really cool project protocol. Here's like this proof of concept conference area I've been building out to bring. I think virtual worlds, one of the most underrated aspect of them is that they have the power to break down silos. And so I want to break down silos between all these different foundations and orgs to talk to each other. And also, here's like a Webaverse booth. I've got some pictures here, and it's sitting next to the M3 one over here. Got a couple M3 peeps. And this over here across the room are Zesty ads, in which a person can buy that and then be able to rent a space across, and then maybe it acts as like a bridge, you know, to their Discord or something, or we have events that there's like a shared event calendar that unites that everybody's kind of like tapped into and whatnot. So the MetaFactory place. And Zesty ads could be useful for not only like okay, now you can rent that thing. But if we were to do a conference, then if we had banners everywhere, then if you become a sponsor, then essentially you would have your logo displayed in all these places. Is my
Yeah,
stream
man.
lagging?
No, it's going fine, I think.
Okay, yeah, it's back.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. It's the most interesting thing I like in the Webaverse. So, sir, can you please talk about the mapping stuff and how will the avatar collection will work? Like, someone asked this question in the chats earlier, so I want to ask how these things work. The mapping and the avatar.
Mapping? What do you mean?
About this quest and DAO tooling and all this stuff.
Yeah, so with the quest, right now it's like all about creating documentation and better templates, and that can earn some XP for different. I don't want it just to be purely transactional, like, hey, do this bounty and then you get some ETH, because that doesn't really rack the kind of kind of alignment and XP like rewards that I think would tap into the potential of this system. It would be, we would need like some items that represent the different roles in a community, and I've been working on a basically consolidating what Discord bots one can use to set up this system. And I don't know if y'all have seen recently, but Meeseek's bot, the most popular bot on Discord, actually has been doing a lot of stuff with NFTs lately, and they've got a section of the website which talks about kind of the NFT features that they've been integrating. Short story is basically finding ways that this MMO experience, this online game, can persist from virtual world to dwork to Discord and GitHub, all kind of tied together. You're earning XP, contributing to an open source project, unlocking rare items as you do so that you can display on your avatar as well. Badges that you can go on your avatar, your backpack, or a weapon on your back, or stuff like that you can wear across the metaverse with you. And it tells a story of maybe like where you've been or what you're good at, what things that you've been able to accomplish outside of just a game, an achievement for helping build the metaverse. And then I'm thinking about outposts as well. So this hackerspace here is one such outpost and one platform, and I want to create multiple of those. And the proof of work, that is a big part of the whole Silk Road as well. Like ancient Chinese silk was very difficult to manufacture, and with like verifiable proof of work through open source contributions, I think that also is like a way to earn silk and kind of the original inspiration of it.
I think silk is very interesting concept. Maybe we can talk about it later.
Yeah, sure. Right now Webaverse MMO, it's ready to go. We have a all the infrastructure set up. I guess hitting the GitHub and the dwork, if you're into learning how to contribute to an open source project, this is a really great starting point. And hit me up in Discord if anybody needs any help. I'll drop the link here into the chat as well. And my next goal is to basically convert the different roles required in this system into NPC avatars. So like for example, here's like a task and like the skill, like what would the developer NPC look like, who would give you one of these tasks if you walked up to him and be like, I'm actually working on something. Can you make the scissors, a sword component? So like basically this turns into NPC dialogue that you talk to, and then they give you this quest. And I'm just kind of like thinking about the arts right now of like how to create these kind of characters in their environments and create a maker's district in which you talk to them, and they it's a virtual world that gives you quests and rewards items for achieving things and helping build the metaverse. So that's kind of my next steps here. And yeah, it was fun to chat with y'all as well. Glad peeps dig it.
So one last question. Would you please like to share some alpha with our community, like the what should our community should look for, if they want to go into the rabbit hole of Webaverse or Metaverse, like what is the next big thing you see in coming time? Like where to dig alpha? Anything will be the fair game.
How about some meta loot alpha, Jin?
Meta loot?
Or do we have to go into M3?
Yeah, I would say if you are into, like, if you want to learn how to make your own avatar and gear up with meta loot is one of the best ways to get into some of the most interesting ideas of interoperability in the metaverse and NFTs as well. It's all about the metadata. And more people are eventually going to get this, especially with AI, because AI is like a Unix philosophy revolution or renaissance, I would say, because it's all about tools that interface with text, and text is like a universal sort of a standard again. So I would say that if you want to start somewhere, make a VRM avatar, check out the Get Good guide, and then MetaLoot. We got well, let me just show you. Like, I basically uploaded a whole bunch of characters as VRMs and VRChat avatars, and we're pretty much ready to start production on creating short stories and films with MetaLoot characters to showcase what avatar interoperability looks like, and with real practical demos, but properly done. So if you want to hop onto our group field trips, you could snag one of these avatars. If you have a VR headset, you could be a actor in MetaLoot Adventures, and we're basically going to take these avatars between all sorts of different platforms with a camera crew, and it's going to be a lot of fun and educational, kind of like Magic School Bus. Here's a Prince Vitalik for y'all. There he is. That's my king.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, hello, Vitalik.
I would much rather be the camera guy, so I am looking for actors. if anyone here is into theater, all you need is a VR headset or webcam or a camera. You could do AI mocap and stuff. Anyways, yeah. So there's some MetaLoot alpha.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for answering our questions.
Yeah, no problem. Ones. I'll see you all in the metaverse.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
8 p.m. EST.